Well, that's certainly a different feeling, a good feeling. A Guardians win without stress for most of the game. Just with the doctor order, we have a fun win to talk about, more catcher fallout, and lineup decisions to dissect.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Your team every day. I wish this was your Cleveland Guardians every single day. What a fun win that was. This is Locked On Guardians. This will be a fun episode of Locked On Guardians. We cover your team every day from the majors, the minors, the draft, everything in between. That's Jeff Ellis. 8 years of hosting this podcast, 19 years covering the draft. I'm Justin Lada. 4 years of co-hosting with Jeff, and also 19 years covering the Guardians minor league system. On today's show, we'll get into the Guardians' fun win, what made it so fun. Guardians press an easy button. We'll get into what's next for Bo Naylor, Cooper Ingle, and Kody Huff, as we promised yesterday. And we'll also later in the show talk about lineup decisions, which were still very weird in this win. So I wouldn't call it negative. I would just call it things that still have to happen anyway. But this was a lot of fun, Jeff. It was nice to see the Guardians finally score early. They only scored in 2 innings. Didn't put any runs on the board after that. They took their walks, which is great because the Angels decided that today was free pass day, which, you'll take. But the bottom of the order came through. We saw some really good swings from guys you want to see good swings from. We saw some BABIP luck. I know, look, the Guardians at times got some RBI hits with broken bat singles, some soft singles, but they were due for some of that turnaround. And I was saying during the game, I said the Guardians aren't necessarily hitting the ball hard, but, they're getting some BABIP luck, which might be, finally deserved. But if you look at the data from this game, Jeff, expected batting average of 280, a hard hit rate of 60.7. They had a lot of hard hit balls in this game. So there were a couple of, high exit velocity outs that they didn't even get. So I guess in this one, it kind of all evened out. But the Guardians, for the most part, because of taking the walks, because of the hits they had with runners in scoring position, they deserved to win this game. And they actually played like it for a change. That is a very nice palate cleanser from Saturday and Sunday against the Twins. Just what you needed.
Yeah, it was, a game where I think they load the bases in the first inning, and you're kind of like, oh crud, like we're gonna have a moment. And then Cleveland had their own sets of issues at points. No, it wasn't the first inning. I feel like was it the second inning is where they loaded the bases, and Cleveland came back and loaded the bases themselves in the second. And then finally came back with the hit. And it's just, I know people get down or get negative, and it's easy to understand with some of what we've seen. But, the driver today was, again, Travis Bazzana. And having Bazzana and DeLauter in this lineup makes this a better lineup than it ever was a year ago, even with some of the struggles. Like, those two have done so much to transform what's here. And, Kyle Manzardo signs of life in this one, and he has been slowly getting better. The OPS at one point was above 600 in the game. It slipped under before the day was done. Rocchio only had the one hit, but I'm giving him one of the 3 stars of this game because it's a big hit for this team to finally do something with bases loaded, to get 2 runs across. Bazzana had his first major league double. Fry had a great game. I've been kind of down on Fry. And listen, I'm very down on Kwan. We'll spend more time, but God, it was nice to see him do something positive. 2 walks, you'll take it. The at-bats didn't look good before those, but that's a positive. I mean, pretty much everyone but Jose helped contribute in this game, which is, a weird statement to ever make with a Cleveland baseball team. But that's what we saw. It was a full lineup. And, yeah, it was just the 2 innings, but you don't bat around without guys doing their job, without guys stepping up. And, again, I couldn't help but feel like Bazzana, and I loved the at-bat before the double. It's like a challenge that was a clear miss, and then I loved when he challenged and got it wrong, and he just told the umpire, my bad. Like, he apologized to the umpire for his challenge, then he ripped the double. And Trout dove forward and it went over past him. But it's just, yes, it's nice to be able to get 7 runs by the third, be up 7-0, and just feel some of that pressure come off for us watching at home. And I'm sure it felt like it came off for the players as well, because I do think when you've watched some of these at-bats, we've seen signs of people pressing. We've seen guys who seem like There, instead of it being easy when the bases are loaded, all the pressure's on the pitcher, it's not on the hitter, but it feels like it's the opposite at points with this team this year. I know someone pointed out in the comments, like a year ago at this time, they like led the league in sack flies, and this year they're near the bottom. It's like just make contact. That's what they got to worry about. And they made contact, and Rocchio got 2 across, and that kind of set the tone.
Yeah, and I believe they're 4th in the league in walks as a team. I had that pulled up at one point. I think I changed it because we were talking about stolen bases off the air, which we'll get to too. But I believe they're 4th. Excuse me. I think they're 4th in baseball. And
they were 3rd heading into the game today at 174, behind the Cubs and the Yankees.
They have 11.3% walk rate as a.
Okay. I was just looking
offense.
At total walks, so I can tell you in terms of total walks, they were 3rd, 1 ahead of the Brewers.
Yeah, the Brewers have a slightly higher walk rate, but they're top 5, they're top 4 in walk rate. And we had a couple of everydayers also point out, like with the Twins series of the weekend, I think it was Matt and David who pointed out, like 2 for 25 over the weekend with runners in scoring position. The glass half full on that data is that you're getting guys on base. You're not coming through, but you're getting guys on base. And in this game, they continue to get guys on base, right? They took their walks. They had some hits. They finally had some of those hits come with runners in scoring position. I mean, that game was like, remember the Staples easy button? That's what it felt like in this one. Like, it felt like the Guardians pushed the Staples easy button, and shout out. We need them as a sponsor, I think.
Do they even exist in this world anymore? Is that even a brand?
Ooh.
I feel like, I think
it is. Well, there's the arena the Lakers play in is now a crypto arena, not a Staples Center. So yeah, that's a good question. All right, let us know in the comments if you've been to a Staples recently, if the easy button still exists. I feel like the Guardians had one in this game though. That was really nice. So yeah, if you continue to get guys on base like they did over the weekend, and you did in this game against the Angels, I do think eventually good things will happen. Like, I know we talk about how the Guardians have had a lot of issues with runners in scoring position this year, and some of that is Rocchio, and a lot of that's Jose. I still think it's one of those things that's like the chicken or the egg argument. Like, you can't control when your hits come, right? Like, you can't, if you hit a home run and there's nobody on, it's a solo home run. You can't control it. It's only worth 1 RBI. It's the same thing as, fielding independent pitching, where it takes the defense out of account. It's the same thing when guys are or aren't on. So for the Guardians, like, yeah, they weren't getting hits with runners on, and their batting average is still their overall offense is 97 WRC plus for the year. So they're a little below league average. But if you keep getting guys on, I do think it will happen. Like, I just do. Like, when you put traffic on the bases, the pressure immediately goes to the pitcher. I know some hitters will experience some pressure or try to do too much, that kind of thing. That's definitely true. But the reality is, when you have the bases loaded or 2 on or whatever it is, the stress is on the pitcher. He's making more high stress pitches. He has to be more perfect. And I think eventually over time that goes in the offense's favor. So yeah, they didn't get a lot of hits with runners on or even a sac fly on Saturday or Sunday or whatever it was, but it came through this game. Keep getting guys on base. I think it'll happen. Like, this is why we've been saying that I think offensively this team it's better than it was a year ago. And I think the good stuff's still in there. Like, they're doing good stuff without Kwan contributing, without Jose contributing. It took a while for Manzardo to come around, but I kind of like the signs from him right now. And like you said, DeLauter, they have 3 guys in this team, Jeff, that it's Jose, Bazzana, and DeLauter. They all have more walks than strikeouts. I think long term that's going to lead to good offense. I just do.
Yeah, I mean, well, I agree that should lead to more offense. It's just, I think when we look at this team, the improvement offensively has to come from the players you were counting on. It has to come from Jose, Kwan, and Manzardo, the big 3 of a year ago. Like, this team will get better at this point primarily through the players you're counting on improving. Like, we've seen some regression with a few of the other guys, but essentially right now what's holding him back is Kwan, Manzardo, and Jose, and Kwan most of all. That's where this team's going to get better. Better than anything they can get externally is getting Jose to where he is. Getting Kwan just to average would be huge improvement. I mean, I'll bring it up again. If you do a full calendar year from last May to this May, starting with today, Kwan is one of the 10 worst hitters in baseball, along with Angel Martinez. You got two of the guys who have started majority of your games who've been the 2 worst hitters in baseball over the last calendar year.
Yeah, it's not good. I think David Fry's improved. Like his OPS is in 800s now. That's fantastic. Joey Cantillo was awesome this game. Like he had a big lead, but sometimes, it's harder to pitch with big leads because you have a lot of breaks.
Agreed.
And you tend to ease up. I don't think he eased up at all. I want to talk a little bit more about Joey Cantillo. And then we also have to get into the fallout from the catcher trade still. I think there's still a lot of things to discuss on the Patrick Bailey trade that we want to get into. And then we have to talk about lineup decisions. It was a interesting day between comments from the Guardians and also lineup decisions against the Angels. So we got more of that to come on this episode of Locked On Guardians. You are not alone if you've ever opened your bank account and you thought, where did all my money go? We have a hard time keeping track of so many subscriptions today, and bills and spending overwhelms all of us fast. And that is where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. Look, we are all signing up for subscriptions these days to watch a baseball game on different apps, different platforms. Same with the NBA playoffs. That's all over the place too. Or maybe you wanted to watch one quarter of some sort of game, or maybe you want to watch, a big boxing match or some kind of wrestling event. Those are all on different platforms now too. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions that you probably forgot about. It monitors your spending and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Very important right now. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockdown. That's rocketmoney.com/lockdown. The conversation about the Cleveland Guardians doesn't have to end here. It is your team every day. And if you are here every day, which we appreciate, check out the Everydayer Club. You get ad-free episodes of the show every single day in your feed. You also get access to the private Discord server with Jeff and I, where you can talk about the game with us, anything else going on, other fans of the show, as well as other hosts of the Locked On Network and fans of those teams as well. So check out LockedOnGuardians.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more, or join subtext.com/LockedOnGuardians if you just want important text sent to your phone as well. So about a lot of ways to continue the conversation with us. Cantillo had an interesting day, Jeff, if you just kind of look at the data and just how he pitched in general. More strikeouts on his fastball than he usually has, more whiffs, good slider. And the Angels, again, I keep seeing this. Like, a lot of teams like to load up their lineups with right-handers against Joey Cantillo, which a lot of teams do against left-handed pitching, right? Which is very strange. Joey Cantillo has reverse splits, and the reason, we've talked about this before, the reason he has reverse splits a lot of the time, although righties have a higher whip against them, but it's the changeup. His changeup is so good. When you put a right-handed hitter in the lineup, guess what? He could throw the changeup, his best pitch, more often, and that comes back to bite you when you think you're loading up against a platoon advantage, and you're not getting it. So Joey Cantillo went out and did exactly what you wanted him to do. I was really impressed with the whiffs in the fastball, the attack mode, despite being up 7-0. And he got 6 innings. It's tied for his longest start of the season. I hope we can get more length out of Joey Cantillo going forward.
Yeah, he has the most players of the game so far of any pitcher on this team for me. He has one more than Messick and Williams, because most of his outings he's kept the team in. He has not been a guy who's gotten a ton of. That's also the other side, is when you're the pitcher of the game, either you didn't give up a lot of runs or you're not getting as much run support maybe as some of the other guys. So yeah, I think he has been, I don't know if I hesitate to say better than I expected, but to a degree, yes, because he's been really consistent, and I was worried about his consistency. And he's been healthy, and here's another player who's had health concerns, a guy who has had some command concerns, and it's not always perfect, it's not always pretty, but I think Cantillo has overperformed. I'm going to say it. I think he's overperformed, and then I say this as someone who was always, you and I were always right there at the front of the Joey Cantillo wagon. We were believers in him. I'd still like to see his walk rate come down a little, but he's just doing enough right things. His FIP is not the prettiest right now, so we'll have to see how that goes. It's almost a full run higher than his ERA, but I think part of that is the walk rate being up and the K rate being not quite as high as a year ago, but he's just been a pretty steady Eddie pitcher for them. And, it's a nice situation to be in where you've got this pitcher who, is this right? That he hadn't accumulated a full year of service time even last year. I guess that makes sense. I mean, he's not going to be a free agent until 2032. So if you can lock him in as a starter, you're going to have him for a very long time in this rotation, which is a nice thing to have.
It is. Yeah, it definitely is. And he's pitching like a 4, maybe a 5.
I mean, I would say it's 3-4.
Yeah, 3-4. I mean, the nice thing is, like, you can look at the rotation and be like, well, Tanner's pitching game. The order of the rotation is Tanner, Gavin, Joey, but realistically, Parker Messick is your best pitcher this year, and then it's probably Parker, some combination of Tanner and Gavin, and then Joey. So even though Joey's third in the rotation and it looks like Parker's 5, it's really Parker, Tanner, Gavin, Joey, in that order of how they perform this year, and Slade's the 5. So if you put things in that order and Joey's the 4, I think that's great. I think the numbers I like to see the FIP come down too, but and get the walks under control. But if Joey Cantillo is your 4th best starter, you can win games that way. Let's dive into catcher a little bit. So we didn't get a whole lot of time yesterday as much as we wanted. We talked a lot about Patrick Bailey, that angle of the trade. We didn't get into the Bo Naylor as much, or Cooper Ingle.
We've got some debate there. I've been getting some data ready for our debate on Bo Naylor.
All right, Jeff's armed and ready. So if you listened on Monday, you heard me say at the end of the show, if you listen all the way through, I said I think Bo Naylor has played his last game as a Cleveland Guardian. You did agree with that. You did say you think he's played his last game as the Cleveland Guardian. I'm going to go even a step further than that. I'm going to say Bo Naylor is not even going to get to Columbus. Like, he's going to go to Arizona to work on some stuff. And again, I made the comments on Monday that the Guardians talked about, we want him to work on his offense and to get better, have better at bats. They didn't say anything about his defense. But again, you didn't trade for Patrick Bailey for his defense or offense. You traded for his defense. So the Guardians,
I hope you traded for his defense.
Yeah,
you traded for his offense, and it's going to be a sad day for you. I say that as a fan of his.
The Guardians didn't mention hide nor hair of Bo Naylor's defense, but you don't trade for a guy with an equally struggling bat if all things are the same with the player. So the defense is definitely the clear upgrade there. So that tells me the Guardians aren't happy with Bo Naylor's level of defense, that it can't offset the offense. But my whole point here is I don't know how you can send Bo Naylor to Columbus and have Cooper Ingle there and have Kody Huff there and Dom Nunez is there, but he can easily be put on the developmental list and not play. But Kody Huff can play some first. But the thing is, the Guardians stressed, and I know we want to be careful about that line of watch what they say, watch what they do, not what they say. It's a fine line though between wanting to get Cooper Ingle more reps behind the plate defensively, and they said at this time they're not really considering moving him positions because they think that defensively he needs all the reps he can get because they like the progress he's made. So I just don't see how you can get Bo Naylor and Kody Huff and Cooper Ingle at AAA. So I think Bo Naylor goes to Arizona, works on whatever, and I think he ends up being traded before he goes to Columbus.
I think there's plenty of reps because I think they're content with what Kody Huff is. So then you can pretty much
they like time. Huff a lot more. They're happy with Huff.
And I mean I when with all the prospects who've graduated, we'll get to it another day. I've got Huff in my top 30, but Huff, they know what he is. I think he can do a lot of first base DH because with occasional reps at catcher, but I don't think he needs the work there. I think you can pretty much have it work with the Naylor Cooper platoon, and that does give you the option if you're doing not even a platoon, but just a timeshare, I should say. It gives you the option to
one day DH, one day catcher.
Yeah. And it gives you the option to DH. Maybe gives you the option to occasionally throw him out in the outfield. Because I honestly don't think that Cooper Ingle is ever going to get a chance to catch here. They can say what they want to say, but we know the extreme value they place on that position defensively. And Cooper Ingle is never going to get to the level that they demand. Like, he's not. Like, it's just his bat can play. Like I've brought it on the show. I think you look at what Liam Hicks has done in the big leagues. You look at Alex Call, who I've talked about on the show all the time. Like, that's kind of your best outcome. Even Steven Kwan area. It's like those type of hitters that are a little more passive, not the big exit velocities. I think there's a pathway to success. I don't think he's ever going to be, like, at best case, he's David Fry. But as a catcher outfielder. Maybe I know he hasn't played anything but catcher in a while, but I think it makes sense to have him shift because either he's just a trade asset or you got to have him play some other positions because I don't think he'll ever be what they want then.
Yeah, there's a lot of angles to that. I kept saying on Saturday, I did the emergency show. I said Cooper Ingle angle, and I was like, I can't keep saying Cooper Ingle angle because it's like a tongue twister.
But
keep saying it.
The other point is, you and I, like we were debating off air, it's like, that Bo Naylor just kind of gets given away. And we come back, I'm going to throw out some ideas of why I think Bo Naylor still has some value and where I think two teams in particular make a ton of sense for Bo Naylor.
All right, we'll talk more about that, talk more about Cooper Ingle and his defense and Kody Huff a little bit. We'll also get into lineup decisions from this game and where things need to change, and I think soon. Baseball season is here. Couldn't be more thankful. Right now, you can trade every game on Kalshi. That's right. On Kalshi, you can trade every single baseball game. So for Tuesday, May 12th, Cleveland, Los Angeles, Cleveland is trading at a 55% probability to win. That actually was up at 57% 1 point. I wouldn't be surprised if it continues to trade up after this Monday night. When I also looked at the over 8.5 runs scored, trading at a 49% probability as well. And I like that because Slade Cecconi's pitching and he hasn't been great. And the Los Angeles pitching also not great too. So take a look into that. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in the live market, meaning there is no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your positions if you like where you are. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app. Use code LOCKEDON to get $10 off when you trade. KALSHI. Kalshi trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Locked In Guardians today and every day, as always, that you're here. And make sure you hit the bell on YouTube. We do thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever you get podcasts. But hit the bell on YouTube so you get notifications. Also, as of recording, we are 11 subscribers away from 6,000. So help us get 11 more subscribers. We really appreciate that. And please auto download on all your favorite audio platforms where you listen to podcasts, so it keeps the show in the feed, whether or not it's an emergency episode, a regular episode. We've been doing those monthly. We will be doing the monthly, the AL Central squad show. So lots of things to make sure you subscribe to. All right, I'll let you pitch in your trade ideas or where you think he's going to go. But I have some other things to say about, not about whether or not Bo. I still think Bo won't play in Columbus, but that's a different story. But I have some other things I want to bring up about Ingle and Huff that you mentioned too.
Yeah, I'll keep it pretty quick. The thing I think with Bo is we don't want to, you got to separate the forest from the trees, like much like what we talked about with Patrick Bailey, where it's like he's been the 5th best catcher in baseball over the last 3 years by his defensive metrics, and his numbers are down, but there's been some bad luck, and you don't want to, short sell. You can say a lot of that with Bo, who's been a top 20 catcher in baseball over the last 3 years, whose numbers are down, but it could just be a rough stretch at the start of the year. It's not like his data isn't great, but like there are some, if you liked him before, there's reasons to. It's no worse. Let's put it this way. His data is better than his 24 data. It's better than his 25. It's on par with his 25 data. There's every reason to think he'll get back to an 80 WRC plus with above average framing and, the caught stealing. Now, if you go and you look at the Cincinnati Reds in particular, Tyler Stevenson, who people wanted for years, has essentially had one good year in he has been an up and down catcher. Tito knows Bo. Tito is familiar with Bo. It's a catcher that he had at his peak. Tyler Stevenson can't frame. He's one of the worst framers in baseball. He's struggling this year. He's almost has as low of a WAR as Bo Naylor has. It gives you a lefty-righty combo behind the plate, I believe, that way too. Isn't Stevenson a righty? So it gives you a nice combination. There's a logic there. I don't know. Like in my heart of hearts, part of me is like, can we convince them to trade us their comp B pick? Get a comp B pick back for
for Bo Naylor?
Again,
good
like,
Lord,
you cannot. It's not just this year. Just like it's not just this year with Patrick Bailey. Like Patrick Bailey is having as bad of an offensive year as Bo Naylor. Now he had a lot better, world's better defensive, but that's why it cost a comp A and a prospect. Like, you're still getting a guy who's been a top 20 catcher by WAR in all of baseball over the last 3 years. Like, I think some of this is us being negative because we've seen Bo and we've dealt with his bad run. Like, guys have value based on what they've done previously, not just on this year.
That's fair.
And maybe it's not that. Maybe it's a lotto. And I want to give you time, so I'll interrupt you here to say the other team I think is kind of interesting to look at. And
Mariners?
Of course, I would have
Everyone wants to say the Mariners.
Yeah, everyone wants to say the Mariners, and then I of course close my tabs because that's what I love to do is close tabs. Is the team that we're facing, the Angels? Logan Hoppy has a broken wrist. He has struggled. I was not familiar with Rivero before this game. Their current backup is also not very great.
The Angels do love a failed prospect.
And they love a failed prospect. Their whole team is built around them. You have a catcher or a former catcher as a manager who is on a 1-year contract. You have a GM who's on a 1-year contract. They have every incentive to try to upgrade. Sebastian Rivero was, a KC guy who was a free agent from Atlanta, who's 27 years old, who's playing every day for them right now, with their backup being Omar Martinez, who was in AAA to start the week. Ohapi, like I said, has a broken wrist, and Ohapi hasn't really been good since that breakout year. He's one of those guys that had a great rookie year and has been So I don't know what you're trying to get. I don't know what the trade would look like. I see they have Sam Bachman in their pen, who was a guy I loved years ago. I would love to try to convince them to give up Sam Bachman, which is probably too much of an ask. Bachman's having a really nice year, and now he's finally healthy. The OU, or not OU, I'm going to get myself in trouble. Miami of Ohio kid. Minor rivalries there, but I think the Angels are another team that just make a lot of sense on paper. The Angels and the Reds, the two teams I think make the most sense for potential Bo Naylor trade.
If you could get a comp B pick for Bo Naylor, I'd jump on that in a heartbeat.
I would as well.
I think it's going to be cash considerations. That's where I'm at. We'll see.
I think he nets something. I do think he nets something.
Cash considerations is something. I guess we'll see. I mean, the Guardians are pretty good at trading nothing.
What was cash consideration was what they got for the guy who was leading the league in saves, and I'm blanking on the closer in Arizona. They traded the Tigers. Sewald, yeah.
Well, Paul Sewald had a longer track record of success, but yeah, I guess
not recently though.
No, yeah. So we'll see. The other thing here too, you're talking about Cooper Ingle. So the Guardians did say they weren't going to move Ingle positions. We'll see what happens there, whether they do it or not, or at least get him work somewhere else. I think there is a path for Ingle to work in as catcher because, you've been mentioning Austin Hedges' age, right? At some point, he'll be done. And you'll have Patrick Bailey for a while, who could be the new Austin Hedges at some point. So I think you can work Ingle in with Bailey because Bailey is a switch hitter, even though he's not really good from either side of the plate. Still gives you a platoon advantage if you want it. It makes sense. So I think you could work in a situation where there's Ingle, Bailey, and if David Fry's still around, however that looks in a couple of years, or Ingle is trade bait and he ends up being a guy you use in a trade. So I wouldn't. The thing is this. Okay, if you go into November with Bo Naylor, Austin Hedges, who's going to come back, I'm sure, Fry, Bailey, and then you have Huff and Ingle. Ingle and Huff probably got to be on the roster unless you trade one of them. Bo Naylor's on the 40 unless you can get him off the 40 or trade him. And you're going to have Bailey, you're going to have Fry, you're going to have Hedges. All those pieces don't fit. You can't have all those guys. So someone's got to go out of that group. At least one or two probably guys have to go out of that group. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves throughout the year. Let's use our remaining time on lineup construction, which is everyone's favorite topic because it's a little overblown, but
we're stuck.
Saying it for a while. We're stuck. Tony Arnarich, who's filling in for Stephen Vogt because Vogt's got some sort of respiratory issue, which you could hear the last couple of days if you listened to his interviews. He didn't sound great, so hopefully he gets better. Said that it's not in consideration to move Kwan out of the leadoff spot, which to me is maddening. Like doing the same thing over and over, expecting new results is ridiculous because they still believe that the previous versions of Kwan is still in there. But like you've been saying, last calendar year for Kwan, he's been pretty bad. It hasn't turned around. And to compound the point on Monday, Jeff, Travis Bazzana hit 8th. Now it worked. It won. He was good. Rocchio, he got Rocchio up with runners in scoring position. But in what world do you have a guy who who has a 400 on base percentage, hitting 8th in front of Steven Kwan, who's just doing nothing. Like, yeah, his OBP is like 300 because he walked twice on Monday. But in what world does that make sense? Like, Travis Bazzana needs to hit leadoff. I'm sorry, he just does.
Yeah, there is no world where it makes sense. Let's be real honest about it. It's nonsensical.
I think it's I don't want to say ego, but I think it's a don't want to upset the apple cart thing. They want to believe in Kwan and that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't want to rock the boat, but they've rocked the boat enough this year, haven't they? With sending out Bo Naylor and bringing in Patrick Bailey and calling up Travis Bazzana. Like, they've rocked the boat enough this year. Don't you think they could keep rocking it? It's working. Rock the boat, baby.
Yeah, they have. I mean, even going in, like, something we haven't talked about. It's like, but you look at adding Alamon. Like, they've had Alamon, Paulette, Bazzana, Messick, and Chase DeLauter. They had 5 of their top 30 prospects up at points this year. They've been running guys down. And Steven Kwan is only here for another year. We did hear the story a year ago when he was still on the team at the deadline. There was cheering. We know he's well-loved. But part of the reason he's well-loved and part of being a great teammate is also knowing that you're hurting your team and that, like, that's not what you should be doing. That, like, you are a net drag on your team in that spot. He should be asking to move down. He should be telling them.
Oh, no player's ever going to do that.
I know, but he should be telling them, like, it's okay to do it. Like, he should be giving them if they're afraid to do it, then sometimes you have to be the one to be like, hey, like, for the sake of this team, put the young kid up there. Like, you have to be selfless. And
I would be surprised. I would be surprised if a player has ever done that. Baseball is so much a confidence game. And they're like, I don't think Steven Kwan's got it. I know some people will say the opposite because of the journal from the contract negotiation year, but I don't think Steven Kwan has like the world's biggest ego. So like, I do think if they move him down the lineup, he'd be fine. But I can't imagine a world where a player comes in as like, don't pull me from the rotation, pull me from 1 to 8 in the lineup. This is such a confidence game. It would be almost shocking to hear that. And if I'm a manager, I would say something's wrong too, like, because that's not what you want to hear. It's one thing for the coaches to do it or the manager, but to hear a player.
We've heard about guys in the past who have done that though, that have made comments. Like, it's okay. I know I've heard those stories. I've heard, because I wouldn't bring it up here if I hadn't heard it. It's like guys being like, when they understand that they're scuffling, that it's okay to make adjustments. That the team needs to come first. That that when you are part of a team, that sometimes if you are the guy who's not producing, like, just the understanding that, like, adjustments get made. Like, baseball is a game of adjustments for players so much that I think if a team has to adjust the lineup, like, that's not a big deal. It shouldn't be, because that's just the name of this game.
Yeah, I would need to hear like a quote or something, because that just is mind blowing to me. I just imagine how, like, I think I've said this before, but just imagine like starting the game off with Bazzana again. Bazzana, DeLauter, and Jose all have more walks than strikeouts. I don't know how it affects.
Nolan Arenado suggested he move down. Mookie Betts agreed to move down and discussed it.
Okay, but agreeing
Fernando
to move down.
Tatis.
Okay, but are they going to their manager and saying it?
Yes,
or are they being
according
asked
to this. No, Nolan Arenado went up and initiated his own move down. Mookie Betts accepted a move, and Fernando Tatis.
Okay, but accepted versus start the conversation.
I know, but I'm just saying these are just the quick examples I could find. This is not me.
All right, I'll give you the Arenado one. The Mookie one, clearly, I mean, doesn't say he was the one who initiated. The Arenado one, that's interesting. So, okay, there's an example. That's good find by you, Jeff. I'm sorry. But I don't know how it affects Jose, because he needs to get it going and he's still walking, which is great. But God, Bazzana, DeLauter, Jose, your first 3 hitters of the game,
would be fantastic.
That sounds like a nightmare for pitchers. And if Bazzana and DeLauter are on base in front of Jose, I can't imagine a pitcher is not going to be like a little more nervous to pitch to Jose, even if he's struggling. So I don't know. I think that would help the lineup tremendously, especially Bazzana. We didn't get a chance to talk about this, Jeff, but the Guardians are leading the league in steals since Bazzana has been called up. There's second in steals as well, I think, overall. They're second behind Miami, 48-43. And
yes, coming into the day.
They have 21 steals since Bazzana came up, and 17 of those are from Bazzana, Jose, and Rocchio, of all people. They're running more. those guys, you want Jose on base. You want Bazzana on base at the top of the order. And Rocchio is doing a great job turning the lineup over to the top of the order. Imagine Rocchio getting on for Bazzana, DeLauter, and Jose.
I agree. It's getting those and just the way Bazzana eats pitches and at bats, I think would be such a great thing for this team.
You might have a 9-pitch at bat to start the game. That's always good. All right. Appreciate you all hanging out with us, sticking around. Good fun win. Hopefully it happens again on Tuesday. We'll take a look at first base for 2026 and beyond. We've got mock draft reactions to get to, prospect rankings updates, and we've got a mailbag to get into this week too. So lots to come this week on Locked On Guardians.
Thank you all for joining us, and go Guardians, go.